Hello, Violin Channel. My name is John MacBain, and I wrote the jury score processing system that is utilized here in Indianapolis. In musical competitions as well as in sports, integrity is the linchpin to having successful competitions. When Tom Biskevich founded the competition here in Indianapolis, that was of utmost importance to him to have juries that were independent, that came from the highest level of musicianship and integrity and artistry, and that could independently judge the competitors on all important aspects of making music, from the technical artistry to the artistic interpretation of the composer. And based on this, he went forward with transparency of how the jury operated and the importance of an independent and transparent and qualified jury without political aspirations or other inputs to the decision. Following the 1990 competition, where we hosted a Della Pena at our home, I had some discussions with Tom Biskevich about the jury system that he had in place at the time, because I felt there were a few weaknesses, and he agreed with me, but he didn't know quite how to solve it. And with my mathematical background, being a mathematician by training, I put together an algorithm that could help resolve some of the issues that he had perceived and permit reasonable abstentions and allow each juror an equal voice in the final opinion of the jury. The jurors in this system use a numbering scale from 1 to 25, although it could be any length numbering scale within reason. And they assign numbers to each of the competitors based on their musicality, technique, and all other important aspects of musicianship in their performances. We do permit abstentions within reason, and for that they assign the score of 0. That is not a low score, that's just a notification to the computer that is indeed an abstention and is to be ignored. With the statistical approach in this system, we can handle these abstentions as long as a juror does not have too many of these abstentions, especially in the later rounds. Tom Biskevich and Glenn Kwok have chosen to have a scoring system where the presence of scores from all previous rounds count toward each decision step. For instance, as I'm talking to you now, we're on the final night of the semifinal round. It will be scored independently, all of its own separateness and independence from the preliminary round. However, in making the decision as to which 6 of the fine violinists move forward as finalists, we will combine the preliminary and semifinal rounds, 30% of the decision being based on the preliminary rounds and 70% based on what happened in the actual semifinal round. Those numbers were originally chosen largely based on the amount of performance time they have in the 2 rounds, and that seems to be a choice that's agreeable with everyone. When we move forward to making the decisions as to which finalists get medals, we keep the same relative balance between the preliminary and semifinal rounds, except we cut that down to half. So now, come Saturday night, 15% will be based on the preliminary rounds, 35% will be based on the semifinal round, and that's still the 70-30 ratio. And then 25% of the total decision will be based on the classical concerto, and 25% of the final decision will be based on the romantic concerto. So we have 4 contributing components: the preliminaries, the semifinals, and each of the 2 concertos, all carrying their weight forward, and the juror's opinion from the very beginning. This results in a decision that isn't who's performed the best concerto for me lately, but versus that is important to properly perform well in all aspects of the competition, from the Paganini and the Bach in the preliminary round through the Beethoven sonata, the commissioned work, and other required aspects of the semifinal round. To enhance independence of the jury members, the jurors are not allowed to discuss their opinions within the jury. As we move forward from one round to another, only Glenn Kwok and I know the relative rankings of the violinists that are moving forward. The jury members don't know, their teachers don't know. The jury is not permitted to have any discussions with any of the competitors until after said competitor has been removed from the running. So there will be no contact between the jury and the 6 finalists, for instance, until after the medalists have been announced this coming Saturday night. Full independence is absolutely important. Otherwise, you get the traditional European jury system where the dominant personalities influence the other jury members and basically carry the day. With this system and the way that Glenn Kwok and Tom Bitskevich before him have run this competition, we get fair results which reflect the opinion of the jury, which generally is well accepted. And as a result, if you look at the medalists and the finalists and even the semifinalists that we have had through the last several decades, you will see some amazing violinists that have established outstanding careers as solo artists, as concertmasters of major orchestras, in chamber work, such as Adela Pena, who stayed with us in 1990, who was the violinist in the Eroica Trio until she retired. Many are in first violin sections of major orchestras throughout this country and in Europe. Unlike most competitions, you indeed do see the winners and those who were competitors at the higher levels of the competition having outstanding careers, and the transparency and the independence contribute heavily to that.